Dealing with a narcissist can feel like being caught in an emotional storm, unpredictable, draining, and overwhelming. They manipulate, control, and distort reality to maintain dominance, leaving their victims questioning their own perceptions and worth. To truly free yourself from their grip, you first need to understand how they operate, why they behave the way they do, and, most importantly, how to break free from their influence. Narcissism is more than just arrogance or self-importance. It is a deeply ingrained personality disorder that affects the way a person interacts with others. People with narcissistic personality disorder, NPD, have an inflated sense of their own importance, a deep need for excessive admiration, and a lack of empathy for others. However, beneath this grandiose exterior lies profound insecurity and a fragile self-esteem that depends on external validation. Narcissists manipulate others to reinforce their sense of superiority and control. They see relationships as power dynamics rather than mutual connections, always striving to be in a dominant position. They achieve this through various psychological tactics designed to keep you off balance and emotionally dependent on them. Some of the most common include gaslighting. They distort reality, making you question your own perceptions, memories, and sanity. If you confront them about their behavior, they'll deny it, twist the story, or accuse you of being overly sensitive. Guilt tripping. They use guilt as a weapon, making you feel responsible for their emotions or actions. They may say things like, "After all I've done for you, this is how you treat me," to make you feel indebted to them. Playing the victim. Even when they are clearly in the wrong, narcissists flip the narrative to make themselves the victim. They may exaggerate their suffering or claim that they are being unfairly treated to gain sympathy and shift blame onto you. Love bombing and devaluation. At first, they may shower you with excessive praise and attention, making you feel special. But once they have control, they begin to devalue and criticize you, creating emotional confusion and dependency. Silent treatment and stonewalling. When you don't comply with their expectations, they may give you the silent treatment, making you anxious and desperate for their approval. These tactics are designed to break down your confidence, making you easier to control. The more you doubt yourself, the more power they gain over you. One of the most insidious aspects of dealing with a narcissist is the emotional toll they take on you. They create an environment where you feel constantly on edge, always trying to anticipate their next move. This emotional chaos is not accidental. It's how they maintain control. Narcissists drain your emotional energy by keeping you in a state of confusion and self-doubt. Over time, this can lead to low self-esteem. Constant criticism and gaslighting erode your confidence, making you believe that you are the problem. Anxiety and depression. The emotional instability they create can leave you feeling anxious, hopeless, and mentally exhausted. Emotional dependency. The cycle of love bombing and devaluation makes you crave their approval, even when you know they are toxic. A major internal conflict arises when you start to see through their manipulation, but fear the consequences of standing up to them. Narcissists do not handle rejection or loss of control well. If you try to set boundaries or detach emotionally, they may escalate their tactics, using anger, guilt, or even threats to pull you back in. This fear of their reaction often keeps people trapped in toxic relationships, feeling powerless to escape. But here's the truth. The more emotional energy you give them, the stronger their grip on you becomes. Breaking free begins with understanding that their behavior is about them, not you. At their core, narcissists are deeply insecure individuals. Their grandiosity is a facade, masking a fragile ego that constantly seeks external validation. This is why they need control, because without it they feel weak and unworthy. Their entire self-worth is built on how others perceive them, which is why they are obsessed with admiration, attention, and dominance. Understanding this is crucial. A narcissist's behavior is not a reflection of your worth, but of their own internal struggles. They manipulate because they fear being exposed as vulnerable or insignificant. They belittle others because it makes them feel superior. They seek control because deep down they are terrified of losing it. This means that their actions are not personal. They would treat anyone in their position the same way. It's not about who you are, but about what you represent to them. The moment you stop taking their actions personally, their power over you weakens. Recognizing the narcissist's need for manipulation is the first step in breaking free. By refusing to engage in their power games, by no longer seeking their validation, and by detaching emotionally, you begin to reclaim your own strength. Narcissists may never change, but you don't have to be their victim. In the next section, we'll dive into Stoic strategies that will help you regain control, set firm boundaries, and build an unshakable mindset that makes you immune to their tactics. Dealing with a narcissist can feel like an endless battle, one where logic, fairness, and emotional appeals never seem to work. The more you react, the more power they gain over you. This is where Stoic philosophy becomes an invaluable tool. It teaches you how to detach from external chaos, control your emotions, and remain unshaken by toxic people. Rather than fighting a narcissist on their terms, Stoicism allows you to disengage entirely, making their manipulation ineffective. To understand why this works, let's first explore the fundamentals of Stoic thought. Stoicism is an ancient philosophy that originated in Greece around 300 BCE and was later developed by Roman thinkers like Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, and Epictetus. It is a practical philosophy, focused not on abstract theories, but on how to live a good life, one rooted in wisdom, self-discipline, and resilience. The core idea of Stoicism is that while we cannot control external events or other people's actions, we can control how we respond to them. The Stoics believed that suffering comes not from what happens to us, but from how we interpret and react to those events. They emphasize three main principles: control over emotions. Emotions like anger, resentment, and frustration only harm you. A Stoic learns to regulate these emotions, responding with reason rather than impulse. Self-discipline. Instead of being ruled by fleeting feelings, Stoics cultivate inner strength, choosing responses that align with their values rather than reacting emotionally. Resilience. Life is unpredictable and hardship is inevitable. Stoicism teaches you to endure difficulties with grace, seeing them as opportunities for growth rather than as personal attacks. One of the most famous Stoic ideas is the distinction between what is within our control, our thoughts, actions, and attitudes, and what is outside our control, other people's behavior, opinions, and external circumstances. By focusing only on what we can change, ourselves, we free ourselves from unnecessary suffering. Narcissists thrive on emotional reactions. They manipulate through guilt, anger, and confusion, using your responses to keep you under their control. The moment you stop reacting emotionally, they lose their grip on you. Stoicism gives you the power to do exactly that. By practicing Stoic detachment, you learn to observe the narcissist's behavior without taking it personally. You stop seeking validation from them, stop engaging in their mind games, and instead focus on maintaining your inner peace. When they try to provoke you, your lack of reaction frustrates them. They expect drama, but Stoicism teaches you to respond with calm indifference. Another key Stoic principle is that revenge and retaliation are pointless. Narcissists want conflict because it keeps them at the center of attention. If you engage in their battles, you're still playing by their rules. The Stoic way is not about winning against the narcissist, it's about rising above them. True power comes from emotional control, not from proving a point. The greatest punishment for a narcissist is your complete disengagement, because it denies them the emotional fuel they crave. So how does this work in practice? The Stoic approach to dealing with narcissists centers on detachment, self-control, and maintaining strong boundaries. Detachment. Narcissists manipulate by triggering emotional responses. A Stoic trains themselves to observe without attachment, seeing the narcissist's words and actions as noise rather than personal attacks. This doesn't mean tolerating abuse, but rather not allowing it to affect your inner peace. Self-control. Instead of reacting with frustration or anger, a Stoic remains composed. The narcissist may insult you, guilt-trip you, or play the victim, but your response is measured, rational, and emotionally neutral. You refuse to be drawn into their chaos. Boundaries. without entanglement. Stoicism helps you maintain firm boundaries without becoming emotionally entangled. You decide what behavior you will and won't tolerate, and you enforce those limits without hostility or resentment. The key is consistency, boundaries set from a place of calm self-respect, not emotional retaliation. By adopting a Stoic mindset, you stop being a victim of the narcissist's manipulations. Instead of trying to change them, a futile effort, you focus on strengthening yourself. You develop the ability to remain unbothered, untangled, and completely in control of your own emotional state. In the next section, we'll explore practical Stoic strategies that will help you apply these principles in real-life situations so you can reclaim your power and break free from the narcissist's influence. Dealing with a narcissist can feel like an endless emotional battle. They thrive on your reactions, whether it's anger, frustration, or even attempts to reason with them. The more emotionally invested you are, the more power they have over you. That's why emotional detachment is the first and most crucial step in protecting yourself. It doesn't mean suppressing your emotions or becoming cold and unfeeling. Rather, it means training yourself to observe their behavior without being emotionally affected by it. By mastering this skill, you strip the narcissist of their greatest weapon, your emotional energy. Emotional detachment is the ability to disengage from the emotional chaos that a narcissist creates. It means refusing to let their words or actions dictate your mood, self-worth, or mental state. Unlike emotional suppression, which involves pushing feelings down, detachment is a conscious choice to observe emotions without being controlled by them. Narcissists are experts at exploiting emotions to maintain dominance. They use tactics like gaslighting, making you doubt your perceptions so you become dependent on their version of reality. Guilt tripping, convincing you that standing up for yourself is selfish or cruel. Triangulation, creating competition or jealousy to make you feel insecure. Rage and silent treatment, keeping you on edge, constantly craving their approval or fearing their disapproval. By keeping you emotionally reactive, the narcissist stays in control. But when you detach, when you stop giving them the response they expect, their tactics begin to lose effectiveness. The Stoics understood that suffering often comes not from external events, but from how we react to them. As Seneca wisely said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." In other words, the pain caused by a narcissist is often amplified by how much we dwell on it, replay conversations in our heads, or try to fix the situation. Epictetus, another great Stoic philosopher, taught that it's not what happens to you but how you react to it that matters. This is the essence of emotional detachment. The narcissist's behavior is beyond your control, but your reaction? That belongs to you. The Stoics also made a clear distinction between 1. What is within our control? Our thoughts, emotions, reactions, and choices. 2. What is outside our control? Other people's behavior, opinions, and manipulations. A narcissist's actions fall into the second category. By accepting that you cannot change them, and instead focusing on your own emotional state, you free yourself from their grip. One of the most powerful Stoic tools against narcissistic manipulation is indifference. Not in the sense of apathy, but in the sense of refusing to be emotionally disturbed by what doesn't serve you. When a narcissist tries to provoke you, they expect a reaction. If they criticize you, they want you to feel hurt. If they ignore you, they want you to feel desperate for their attention. If they guilt trip you, they want you to feel responsible for their emotions. But when you respond with indifference, when you stop reacting altogether, you disrupt their entire strategy. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic thinker, put it perfectly. Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been. This means that it is your perception of the narcissist's words and actions that gives them power. If you decide that their insults, silent treatment, or manipulations have no real effect on you, they become powerless. It's important to distinguish between detachment and apathy. Detachment means you are emotionally neutral. You see the narcissist's behavior for what it is, manipulation, and refuse to let it affect your inner peace. Apathy means shutting down completely, feeling numb, and losing all emotional connection with the world, which is not a healthy response. Detachment is about reclaiming control over your emotional responses, not disconnecting from your feelings entirely. A narcissist tries to insult you. Instead of defending yourself, you respond with a calm, neutral, okay, and move on. They try to guilt trip you. Instead of engaging, you say, I understand that's how you feel, without apologizing or justifying yourself. They give you the silent treatment. Instead of chasing after them, you use the time to focus on yourself, showing them that their tactic doesn't work. Over time, as they see that their actions no longer affect you, they either back off or look for another target. Like any skill, emotional detachment takes practice. Here are key techniques to help you develop it. 1. Develop mindfulness and self-awareness. Pay attention to your emotional triggers. What specific words or actions from the narcissist upset you the most? Practice observing your emotions rather than being consumed by them. Instead of thinking, they are making me feel worthless. Shift to, I notice that I feel upset right now. This small shift creates distance between you and your emotions. 2. Pause before reacting. Narcissists want you to react impulsively. Before responding to them, pause. Take a deep breath. Remind yourself that their behavior is a reflection of them, not you. 3. Use the gray rock method. This is a technique where you make your responses as dull and uninteresting as possible. Give short, neutral answers. Do not show emotional reactions. Eventually, they lose interest because they are not getting the drama they crave. 4. Rewire your emotional responses. Repeated exposure to narcissistic behavior may have conditioned you to react automatically. Break this pattern by consciously choosing new responses. Instead of reacting with frustration, practice responding with neutrality. If they insult you, imagine yourself as an observer rather than a participant. Scenario: Sarah has a narcissistic coworker, James, who constantly belittles her work in front of others. In the past, she would try to defend herself, but this only led to more attacks. Feeling drained, she decides to adopt a Stoic approach. What she did differently. When James criticized her, she responded with a calm, I appreciate the feedback, and continued working. When he tried to provoke her by exaggerating her mistakes, she remained neutral and did not argue. When he ignored her after failing to get a reaction, she acted as if nothing had changed. The result: James grew frustrated because he wasn't getting the emotional response he wanted. Sarah felt more in control of her emotions and less affected by his attempts to undermine her. Over time, James reduced his attacks because they no longer had the desired effect. This example illustrates how emotional detachment can break the cycle of manipulation. By refusing to react emotionally, you take away the narcissist's power and reclaim your own inner peace. Emotional detachment is not about ignoring your feelings or pretending toxic behavior is okay. It's about recognizing that you control your emotions, not the narcissist. By practicing Stoic principles, remaining indifferent to their provocations, and rewiring your responses, you create an invisible shield that protects you from their manipulation. In the next section, we'll dive deeper into boundary setting, another essential tool in breaking free from a narcissist's control. Dealing with a narcissist is exhausting because they do not respect personal limits. They invade your emotional, mental, and even physical space to maintain control over you. This is why setting firm boundaries is not just helpful. It is necessary for protecting your well-being. A narcissist will push, manipulate, and guilt-trip you into bending to their will. But when you establish and enforce clear boundaries, you take back control of the situation. However, setting boundaries with a narcissist is different from setting boundaries with a reasonable person. They will resist, retaliate, and test your limits. This is where Stoicism provides an invaluable mindset. By understanding that you cannot control the narcissist's reactions, only your own actions, you can hold your ground with confidence and without emotional turmoil. Boundaries are essential when dealing with narcissists because they lack the ability to respect others' needs, emotions, and autonomy. Their primary focus is on maintaining power and getting their way, which means they will ignore your requests and personal space, demand excessive time, attention, and emotional energy, dismiss your feelings and make everything about them, manipulate you into compliance through guilt, anger, or passive aggressiveness. Without boundaries, a narcissist will take as much as they can. They are like emotional black holes, draining you until you have nothing left. Setting boundaries is not about changing them. It's about protecting yourself. Boundaries allow you to reclaim your time, energy, and peace of mind, making it harder for them to manipulate you. The Stoics emphasize the importance of maintaining personal integrity and focusing on what we can control, our own actions and choices. Epictetus taught, if someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. In other words, we are responsible for guarding our peace, and setting boundaries is a way to do that. The key Stoic principles that apply to boundary setting include: you control yourself, not others. You cannot make a narcissist respect your boundaries, but you can enforce them by refusing to tolerate disrespect. Boundaries are for your peace, not as a means of control. The goal is not to change the narcissist, but to protect your emotional and mental space. Setting boundaries is not an act of aggression. Many people, especially those conditioned by narcissists, fear that setting boundaries is mean or selfish. In reality, it is an act of self-preservation. As Marcus Aurelius has put it, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Stoicism helps us view boundary setting as a rational, unemotional act of self-care rather than a battle. You do not need to fight, explain, or seek approval. You simply decide what you will and will not tolerate and enforce those limits calmly and consistently. Setting boundaries with a narcissist requires clarity, consistency, and emotional detachment. They will test you, try to break down your defenses, and manipulate you into backing down. Here's how to stand firm. Narcissists often exploit weak, vague, or apologetic language. Be clear and direct. Instead of, I don't really like it when you criticize me in front of others. Say, do not criticize me in front of others. If you do, I will leave the conversation. Your tone should be calm, neutral, and firm, neither aggressive nor overly accommodating. Narcissists often push boundaries by making you feel guilty for saying no. They may frame your refusal as selfish, unreasonable, or hurtful. Recognize this as manipulation. You do not need to justify your boundaries. Instead of, I'm really sorry, but I just can't help you with this right now. Say, no, I won't be able to help with that. No excuses, no explanations, no room for debate. Expect the narcissist to test your limits. They may guilt trip you. After all I've done for you, you're going to treat me this way? Gaslight you. You're overreacting, I didn't even say that. Play the victim. I guess I just can't do anything right in your eyes. Retaliate. Sulking, giving you the silent treatment, or even lashing out. Remain calm. Do not explain, argue, or engage. Stick to your original boundary. When they realize you won't budge, they will either back off or escalate their behavior. Either way, your response should remain unchanged. Scenario: a narcissistic boss constantly emails you after work hours, expecting immediate responses. Boundary: I do not respond to work emails after 6 p.m. I'll address this first thing in the morning. Response to pushback: if they pressure you, do not explain, just repeat the boundary. Scenario: a narcissistic parent constantly criticizes your life choices. Boundary: I will not discuss my personal life with you if you continue to criticize me. Response to pushback. If they continue, leave the conversation. Do not justify or argue. Scenario. A narcissistic partner ignores your requests for personal space. Boundary. I need alone time. I will not answer texts or calls during this time. Response to pushback. If they insist, repeat the boundary and enforce it by not engaging. Sometimes, no matter how strong your boundaries are, the narcissist will continue their toxic behavior. In such cases, the most powerful option may be to go no contact or limit interaction. The Stoics believed in surrounding themselves with virtuous individuals and distancing themselves from those who disrupted their peace. Seneca advised, associate with those who will make a better man of you. Welcome those whom you yourself can improve. If a narcissist continues to violate your boundaries and drain your energy, it may be time to walk away. When the narcissist is abusive or relentless in their manipulation. When every interaction leaves you feeling emotionally drained. When setting boundaries only escalates their toxic behavior. No contact means completely removing the narcissist from your life, blocking their calls, cutting all communication, and refusing to engage in any way. Limited contact means keeping interactions minimal and strictly necessary, often with emotional detachment.